Vivian and Billy had a 10-year age difference. He was divorced. She had a fiance and he a girlfriend. He was black, she was white. And as you laid out for the 1940s, all of those were difficult circumstances to overcome, weren't they?
Yes, it was complicated. And imagine your daughter coming home in the 1940s and saying, I'm in love with a man, he's divorced. And your mother's a devout Baptist, so stop right there.
Right.
That would be a no-go. Now you add on the layer that, oh, and he's 10 years older. Well, that's not going to be too good. But then you play the race card, and that is just going to be not, it's going to be a non-starter. It's not going to happen in terms of Vivian's mother, Jean's opinion. My grandmother did not want us to be born. She did not want this marriage to happen, and she orchestrated quite a campaign of letter writing amongst community members to convince Vivian that marrying a black person would be a dire activity.
All right, let's talk about those letters, because those letters to your mother form the basis of this story, but you wrote it as a novel. Tell me a little bit about that and why that decision.
My mother saved these letters, all the negative opinions, where most people might have crumpled them up or burned them or felt upset by them. My mother viewed these as important documents for posterity, that these attitudes had to be kept and then examined later on. So that was part of my mission, was to give life to these letters, but I didn't know everything.
Right.
I didn't ask my father about his girlfriends in the 1940s. I didn't ask questions about how they met or how my grandmother found out about the relationship. So those are details I had to fictionalize. But largely, my novel is based on nonfiction events and history.
All right, let's talk about the journey of your mother and father. They ultimately decided to travel west and relocated to Toronto. What was their experience there, and how was it vastly different from the East Coast to the big city?
The reason my father came to Toronto was because he had a new job at a community center on Bathurst Street called the Home Service Association, which predominantly served the black community, which the city of Toronto did a terrible job of serving the welfare needs of that community at the time. And Vivian followed him rather reluctantly to Toronto. She was not convinced that this would be a good move for her, but when they got here, she realized how much freedom they had to do what they wanted to do, to go where they wanted to go, to be embraced by a community, a diverse community, a welcoming community in Toronto. And that's the exciting part about this novel, the positive aspects of the city of Toronto and the climate that my parents found here that enabled them to do some work around race relations and building the bridges and providing the example of how interracial marriage could work.